minds. My dear friend, Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu and Sarah Netanyahu, it's quite a challenge to speak after you in the English. My dear colleagues and friends from Israel and from abroad, our Prime Minister just now was speaking so powerfully about the future of Israel. I want to say a few words about importance of Israel for the future of Jewish people and importance of Israel for the future of the world. First of all, about Jewish people. Let's look. In 1948, there were 600,000 Jews living here. Now, already for 2 years, we are the biggest Jewish community in the world. 43% of Jews live here. If you take Jews up to the age of 21, more than 50% of Jews live in Israel. If you take babies who are born this year, Jewish babies, 60% of them are Sarahs. So it's clear how it's moving. Now let's look on the economy. Well, I am not going to compete with Bibi to speak about economy, but one figure. In 1948, the internal budget of Israel was less than 40% of all the immense investments of Jewish people into the land of Israel in that year. Today, with all great charities, great efforts of Jews who are investing in our universities, in our hospitals, in our towns in Galilee, Negev, it's a little bit more than 1% of our GDP, of our economical power. So it's clear how these forces between Israel and the people, Jewish people of the world is changing. And now, facing the challenge of assimilation, Jewish communities themselves came to the conclusion that the best way to guarantee their Jewish future, the best way to strengthen their Jewish identity is to have Israel experience, to send their children to Israel. And look, only this year, in addition to 19,000 Alim, we have 15,000 school children who came to Israel under the Lapid project. We have almost 40,000 students who came for a short trip of birthrights. We have 11,000 students who came for 1 year to study in our project Masa, the project of the Israeli government Jewish agency. And we are, with all the new projects which we are developing, we are right on the track when in a few years every young Jew will spend at least one short trip in Israel, and every second young Jew will spend another second, much more meaningful and deep trip to Israel. And the government of Israel, and that's really important, the government of Israel now is investing in strengthening Jewish identity of Jews of the world. And I have to compliment here our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who was the first Prime Minister who understood the importance of this. I remember that historic meeting. I was there when he decided against all the opponents who were saying, what we, Israeli government, will be giving the money of our taxpayers to rich American Jews to bring their kids to Israel. It's against the laws of nature. And he really signed this letter, historical letter, and the Israeli government started investing their money. I'm using the expression of our Prime Minister, to invest, to put the money, how is it, where your mouth is. So it was great achievement, and Mr. Prime Minister, we hope will put more and more money where your mouth is. Dear friends, so while Israel is strengthening Jews of the world are the first line of defense of Israel in this awful atmosphere of delegitimization. It's by far the best ally that Israel has. And then suddenly there is a debate, and there is a big debate which was also many times mentioned here on this conference, and just now Jewish Agency will have the whole day of debate about it. How big is the tent of Jewish people supporting Israel? How you define who is in this tent and who is not? And it's interesting, there are many debates. For example, in Princeton, the students and other Jewish organizations had for a year debate to find the formula who can be defined the defender of the state of Israel. And after this, they came, after long discussions, they came with 3 paragraphs, in the heart of which is everybody who supports Jewish democratic state. And one can say, big thing, it's motherhood and apple pie. It's so simple, Jewish democratic state. I want to say it's not accidental that our enemies that we just now heard are resisting. That so many people are putting the questions whether it is possible Jewish democratic state. And I want to prove that it is just because we are building Jewish democratic state, we are so important for the future of the world. Look what's happening at this moment in the world. On one hand, there is great events in the Middle East, which we have discussed here many times in this conference. Some call it Arab Spring, some call Arab Winter. It doesn't matter. There is a big debate. I heard here explanations that you cannot really compare what's happening there with what was in Eastern Europe. You don't have the same civil society, and you can't compare it with what was happening in Western Europe. You don't have that mentality and so on. I have to say, look, simply Google on internet to speak freely your mind and Middle East, and you'll find thousands and thousands of quotes in these months of people from Egypt, from Libya, from Saudi, from Syria, who are all speaking about this great moment when they can start speaking freely their mind. That's, and I can tell you as the one who was in Eastern Europe then, that is real what is common between Eastern Europe and Arabs and all the great revolutions. People cross that line when they finally can speak freely their mind. And that's a great impulse. The conditions can be different, mentalities can be different. These civil society institutions are different, and that's why transitional period can be very different. And the role of the free world can be very different. But impulse to be free is the same. So what it means that in the society which is traditional, which is connected to religion, which is connected to tradition, people feel that they need also to be free. On the other hand, look, Europe. It was also discussed in this conference. And suddenly heard that integration in Europe finished, now starts disintegration. And multiculturalism, now one after the other leaders of Europe speak about the failure of multiculturalism. What it means that in the society which lives in freedom, but which tried to erase its identity, which did such a big effort as to live in the world of John Lennon, where you may remember, imagine the world without religion, without governments, without nations, the world where there is nothing to die for. That was the dream. So they find out that if there is no identity, no nationality, no religion, nothing to die for, there is nothing to live for. And they look how to bring back their identity, and they're concerned. Who knows, maybe we'll bring back more nationalism, then there'll be wars again. So in fact, what we see on both sides, the same phenomenon. There are 2 basic desires of the people: to be free and to belong. To belong to nation, to belong to faith, to belong to community. And the challenge is whether they can make these 2 desires to live together, to empower together, to strengthen together, or they are threat to one to another. And here comes Israel with its unique experience of Jewish people who became free when they became people. When they went out of Egypt, then for the first time they became people. So freedom and identity goes in our history together all the time. And that's exactly what after thousands of years we are doing here. We are proving that you can be enrooted in your tradition. You can be strengthened by your history, by your nation, by your religion, and at the same time to be modern nation, to live with deep belief in democracy, in human rights, in civil society. And that's why success of Israel is so important for the success of the world. Our president in his opening remarks said that Tikkun Olam, repairing of the world, belongs to the future. Of course I agree with this, and I want to add, but it can succeed only if it is connected to the past. So success of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, that's the most important contribution which we can do to real Tikkun Olam, repairing of the world. Thank you.